A teenager accidentally discovers a comet heading straight for Earth, and the government spends a year hiding it from everyone. In Virginia, a high school astronomy club meets at night to look at the stars. A student named Leo notices something in the sky he cannot identify, and his teacher tells him to photograph it and send it to a professional astronomer. The pictures reach an observatory in Arizona where Dr. Wolf uses a large telescope to check the data, and he discovers a comet on a collision course with Earth. He tries to email the information immediately, but the server is down, so he saves it to a floppy disk and names the comet Wolf-Biedermann. He drives down the mountain while trying to reach his superiors by phone, but keeps hitting voicemail. A truck comes from the opposite direction, and its driver drops a cigarette in his lap. Wolf is too distracted by his phone to see the truck coming, and they crash. His car goes off the mountain and burns. A year later in Washington, D.C., a news researcher named Jenny begs her boss to let her become an anchor, but gets refused again. Her boss sends her to research the sudden resignation of the Secretary of the Treasury instead. During lunch, Jenny's mother Robin tells her that Jenny's father Jason has remarried and has twins with his new wife. Jenny tracks down the secretary's assistant and learns he quit after a private meeting with the president about someone called Ellie. Jenny finds the secretary loading up a boat with supplies and his family. He freezes when she says the name Ellie and asks her for compassion if she runs the story, saying he only quit to spend time with his family. On her way back, black vehicles surround Jenny's car and force her to pull over. The Secret Service puts her in a car and takes her to a restaurant where President Beck is waiting. His pronunciation makes Jenny realize the secret is not a name. It is the initials ELE. Beck says he will address it at a press conference in 2 days and asks her to hold the story, promising her the first question as a reward. Jenny searches ELE online and lands on a paleontology site. It stands for Extinction Level Event, the same kind of impact that killed the dinosaurs. That night, Jenny has dinner with her father, Jason, and his new wife. They are hurt. She missed the wedding and give her earrings as a gift, but she cannot focus. She drinks too much, tells Jason to get back together with Robin, and leaves. On the day of the press conference, President Beck tells the country about the Wolf-Biedermann comet. It is bigger than Mount Everest and will hit Earth in 1 year. The USA and Russia have built a spaceship called Messiah that will intercept the comet and destroy it with warheads. Beck introduces the Messiah crew on a video call, and they explain their plan to land on the comet and plant the warheads. Beck asks the public to continue life as normal and announces he is freezing all wages and prices to stop hoarding. He gives Jenny the first question as promised, and she pushes hard, bringing up the secretary's resignation. Beck has no choice but to confirm that human survival is at stake, but he insists the mission will succeed. Another reporter asks about the discovery, and Beck confirms the scientists who found the comet died in a car crash. Leo's family hears the name on the news, and the neighbors start showing up at their door with questions. A few days later, Leo is on the cover of every newspaper and magazine. He holds a talk at his school, and all the kids think he is cool now. The Messiah crew spends a night at a bar with their families before going into full-time training. They discuss the mission's risks over drinks. Because of the comet's rotation, they only have a 7-hour window to land before the sun rises, and if sunlight hits the comet, dangerous gas eruptions will follow. They have to work fast. 2 months later, the crew launches on a shuttle to the station where the Messiah is docked. Every news channel covers it. The Messiah runs on a nuclear propulsion system that lets it reach the comet before it gets too close to Earth. The crew transfers successfully and begins the long journey. 5 months later, Jenny learns she is finally getting to anchor since she broke the story. The Messiah crew sees the comet for the first time and are stunned by how large it is. They start moving the warheads carefully in zero gravity. On Earth, Jenny tells her viewers that the ship has to fly through the comet's tail, which is full of rocks, sand, and ice. The Messiah enters the tail, and the pilots work to dodge hazards, but the rocks are too large and too many, and the ship takes several hits. The damage is minimal, and the ship lands safely on the comet with 6 hours and 18 minutes before sunrise. The crew comes out with a drilling machine, and it works well for several hours, but then the drill gets stuck. The hole is not deep enough for the warheads to do real damage, and someone has to go down and free the drill. With 20 minutes left, the pilots realize the crew will not make it back in time and fly the ship closer to rescue them. Commander Monash goes into the hole and finds it opens into a cave, which is what jammed the drill against the side. He pulls and jumps on it until it comes free, then climbs out as fast as he can. The pilots land the ship at a running distance behind the crew and cut the engines to save fuel. They run out of time and the sun comes up. Light slowly reaches the surface and the astronauts cover their visors. A gas eruption blasts Monash out of the hole before he can shield his face, and his eyes get burned. The crew catches him by his tether and reels him in, and they all run for the ship. Another gas eruption from above hits the medical officer and sends her into open space. The rest of the crew reaches the Messiah in time, and the ship flies clear before things things get worse. Some of the crew want to go back for the doctor, but there is no fuel and no time. Monash cannot see, and Captain Tanner takes command. Earth gets an update. The warheads are planted, but the crew lost a person. Jenny reads a tribute to the doctor on air. Once the Messiah reaches a safe distance, the crew detonates the warheads. The shockwave hits the ship and cuts off its transmission to Earth. The crew fights to stop fires and stabilize the ship and gets it under control quickly. They assess the damage and agree to go home. President Beck receives bad news and has to tell the country carefully. The explosion only split the comet in two, and both pieces are still large enough to end civilization. NASA has also lost contact with the Messiah and does not know if anyone is alive. Beck announces that the government has built shelter caverns in the limestone cliffs of Missouri. The bunker holds 1 million people along with enough animals and plants to restart life on Earth after impact. 200,000 people are already selected: leaders, scientists, doctors, engineers, teachers, soldiers, and artists. A national lottery will pick the remaining 800,000. People over 50 are excluded unless they are essential scientists. Jenny shares the lottery details on her show. Leo's family gets a call telling them they are part of the pre-selected group. With 4 weeks before impact, Jenny visits Robin and admits she thinks it is unfair that she was pre-selected since she is only a journalist. Leo proposes to his girlfriend Sarah so she qualifies as family and can come to the bunker. Sarah does not want to leave her parents, but Leo promises to use his fame to get them in. Cities across the country start to fall apart. Stores are looted and burned. Firefighters are occupied at the shelters. Across Latin America, gangs take over cities. In Moscow, people fight over food and supplies. 2 weeks before impact, Tanner runs calculations and checks on Monash. Monash's face has healed, but his sight is almost gone. He only sees occasional flashes of light. Tanner starts reading to him to pass the time. When evacuation begins, the National Guard lets Leo bring his family and Sarah, but not Sarah's parents, despite Leo's requests. Sarah refuses to leave them and watches the bus take Leo away. Jenny learns that Robin has taken her own life. She picks up her mother's belongings from the morgue and sits in the rain. Jason comes to find her and tells her his wife left him to hide with her own family. Jenny tells him she feels like an orphan and leaves in a cab. 5 days before impact, chosen people and animals arrive at the bunker in Missouri. A crowd stands behind the fence begging to get in. Leo watches people holding their babies up and hears a soldier say they will be underground for 2 years. He refuses to go in without Sarah, says goodbye to his family, and runs back to find her. At the news station, Jason brings Jenny childhood photos and says a final goodbye, leaving her in tears. That night, NASA launches a series of missiles called Titans at the comet, and Jenny tracks them on her newscast. 14 hours later, Beck delivers the results. The missiles fail. Humanity must prepare for impact. Beck tells the country that the smaller fragment, now called Biedermann, will hit the Atlantic Ocean near Cape Hatteras in 12 hours. A tsunami will follow and destroy the U.S. eastern coast, including New York and Philadelphia. The main body, called Wolf, will land in western Canada hours later and trigger the actual extinction level event. For 2 days after impact, dust will block the sun for 2 years, and all plant and animal life will die without light. 10 hours before impact, Tanner finishes his calculations and shares a plan. The crew cannot stop Biedermann, but they can stop Wolf. The gas eruptions have opened a large fissure that reaches the comet's core, and they can fly the Messiah into it and detonate the remaining warheads from the inside. The ship does not have enough fuel to land and pull away again, so the crew will not survive. The crew agrees they have no other choice. They call Houston and share the plan so the world knows what is coming. On Earth, Leo hitchhikes back home, but Sarah and her family are already gone. He remembers her father has a motorcycle and takes it to move faster. The roads are jammed with cars, but the bike lets him cut through. He finds Sarah, and her parents tell her to go with Leo and take her baby brother. Sarah, Leo, and the baby race away on the bike while her parents watch them leave. At the news station, the team draws sticks to decide who goes with Jenny to the bunker. Jenny feels guilty because her boss has a daughter, so when the helicopter comes, she lets her boss and the child take her place instead. Jenny goes to the beach to find Jason, and they make peace and decide to face the end together. Around the world, people watch the Biedermann fragment falling through the sky until it hits the Atlantic. A massive explosion follows, and the sky goes dark as a huge tsunami builds and swallows New York, collapsing thousands of buildings and killing everyone who did not get out. Jenny and Jason hold each other on the beach as the wave reaches them. The Statue of Liberty goes down, and its head floats in the water with the rest of the debris. The wave reaches inland roads, and people abandon their cars and sprint for higher ground. Sarah's parents stay on the beach and face the wave together. Leo, Sarah and the baby are still pushing uphill on foot. 2 minutes before the second impact, NASA connects the Messiah crew to their families for a final goodbye. Monash's wife is stuck in traffic and does not make it in time. Tanner's sons are on active naval duty and cannot be reached, so Tanner prays to his dead wife and tells her they will meet again. NASA is about to cut the feed when Monash's wife finally arrives with their baby, and he gets to say goodbye after all. The countdown begins. The crew says their final words to each other as the Messiah flies into the comet's orbit and enters the fissure just in time. They detonate the warheads, and the comet breaks into millions of small pieces. On Earth, Leo and Sarah reach the top of the hill and watch the fragments scatter across the sky like a fireworks show. A few days later, after the Atlantic waters pull back, President Beck gives a speech. He acknowledges every life lost on every continent and asks the survivors to carry those losses with them as they rebuild.